Well, many Democrats know they are waiting for Donald Trump to potentially get convicted of crimes that he is being indicted for, and that could potentially disqualify him from the ballot to run for president. Well, now there are a lot of folks who say, you know what? Not so fast. In fact, take a look at this piece in Politico. This was a big one here. How one judge is slowing down one of Trump's biggest criminal cases. I found this one pretty interesting. Take a look at some of the here. First, they argue that on paper, this judge has scheduled to have a Trump or the Trump case start in May for the Mar-a-Lago documents case. However, in reality, quote, she has run the pretrial process at a leisurely pace that will make a postponement almost inevitable, according to expert criminal prosecutors. Now, this is fascinating because if the trial can get delayed until after the election for the Mar-a-Lago documents case, and potentially that starts happening in other cases as well, it is entirely possible that the trials never end up happening at all. That's because obviously, if Donald Trump wins the election and any of these cases are still pending, we expect that Donald Trump will either pardon himself or just direct the DOJ to stop the cases. That's fascinating. Now, it's like November 22nd here. So initially when I read this, I'm like, this is crazy. You've got, like a year basically to handle this case. Why would it be potentially possible that it wouldn't happen? Well, the argument here is that even a short delay would be a problem for getting the trial done by the election. That's because if you push the trial into the summer or fall, you could run up against the RNC campaigns or the general election, which some are saying shouldn't matter at all, and Donald Trump might have to end up sticking with, a trial during these sort of periods of time. And others are saying the May 20th date that's announced is pretty unlikely because the judge is basically dragging her feet on even normal motions that should be approved or cleared relatively quickly. So some people are now seeing it could be a stealth attempt to delay the ultimate trial date without actually announcing the delay. See, and then they get into here. The case would not be a simple one for any judge to manage. Trump is charged with retaining classified documents in his Florida estate after he left the White House and then impeding the government's effort to retrieve those documents. This has to do with the Classified Information Procedures Act, or SIPA. Most federal judges outside the Washington area rarely encounter SIPA cases. So in other words, this is really a way of saying like, hey, this is like kind of a novel case for a judge to deal with, so it's somewhat challenging. However, take a look at one of these examples here. Other delays are more substantive. Last month, after prosecutors in special counsel Jack Smith's office ran into difficulties making a small amount of evidence in the case available to Trump and his lawyers, due to what the government says is extremely sensitive in nature, the judge suspended the deadlines for motions related to classified information. She took more than 5 weeks then to hold a hearing on Trump's request for a new schedule and 9 days more after that to issue a new one. Basically, bottom line, before you get to trial, there are a lot of motions back and forth. In fact, attorneys call this chaos theory, where you're purposefully trying to pepper the other side with requests, not only to make it more expensive for your opponent to actually fight the case, but also to buy yourself time and to try to get as many advantages as you can up front. Because even small wins during pre-trial are things that you're going to be able to use in trial in front of a jury, going, look, here's what happened in pre-trial. Here's evidence we got. Here's what they said in this motion. Here's what they said in response to this. All of that becomes evidence. And so this allegation that the judge is maybe dragging her feet on purpose and that the court is moving slowly, some people say it's methodical. Others are saying it's just a straight up stealth attempt to make sure that the election happens before this case ever has to get decided. And it's fascinating because if that happens, then basically, I mean, let's put it this way. Very simple bottom line. unless Donald Trump is actually convicted and found guilty of some kind of crime that would disqualify him from becoming president and therefore being on the ballot in November. Unless that happens before the election, we're going to get Trump v. Biden. And then everything's going to come down to the economy. And the economy is just not that great, which, at least in people's opinions. For example, here was a piece, I cut this out of the Times, I thought was really interesting. Let me see if I can hold that up. Yeah, look at that. Americans say the economy is bad, but their spending says otherwise. Their spending begs to differ. You could freeze frame that if you want to see it. But basically, they're making this argument that individuals feel like the economy is bad. But statistically, it's not bad. Unemployment is at a record low. Unemployment claims continue to come in low. Inflation is rolling over. Rents are stabilizing or coming down. A lot of things are going in the favor of the economy and consumers. AI spend is clearly here to sustain enterprise spending and support a longer run, a strong economy. And whether or not we fall into a recession is debated. But the idea is, okay, well, even if we go into recession, it'll probably be pretty shallow. So why do people feel bad? Well, people feel bad, according to JPOW, because of the inflation that we've had. That is, people, in the words of Jerome Powell, absolutely hate inflation. And I don't really blame that, because I look at inflation simply by going to restaurants, and I'm like, how is a meal for myself, my son, and my dad $100 for lunch? Like, I don't understand. Everything is getting so much more, or has gotten so much more expensive, right? And so that creates frustration in the economy. And so from a political point of view, that frustration has to go away. And this is what we've talked about before on the channel, that if you have a weak economy come November of 2024, then Trump probably wins. But I found this very fascinating, that you have potentially a slow-walking judge here on a Trump case. As far as, D.C., a lot of quietness is hopefully expected between now and Black Friday, where we hope to get, strong Black Friday sales numbers. Not too strong to where the Fed freaks out, but strong enough not to drive us into recession or some kind of bad earnings. Obviously, if you haven't heard yet, we have a deal freeing 50 Israeli women and children in exchange for 153 women and children who are Palestinian. And this is coming with a 5-day ceasefire mediated by Egypt, Qatar, and the United States. So we'll see how that goes, if that could end up bringing some calm to the region. So I'm excited about that. In other words, or let's take a look at what else we have here. We have some more details on sort of how the negotiations have gone with Hamas. A lot of negative press, by the way, on Elon. I mean, everywhere I look, it's negative on Elon. Look at, for example, this. This is on The Hill. I mean, they're not even finance. But look at this. Elon's hypocrisy is showing. Now, I know this is an opinion piece here, and I haven't gone through to read this, but the point is, it's over here on their Just In slide on the front page of The Hill. Not a surprise that they're running this, but it is also something where you look and say, wow, just the negative impression. I mean, I wonder if he's almost at like peak negative press at the moment. That would be very interesting on Elon. And of course, there's a huge anti Elon movement, especially amongst the left right now. Stormy Daniels' conflict complaint against Trump hush money lawyer tossed out. New York Attorney General or New York Attorney Grievance Committee on Tuesday dismissed a complaint filed by Stormy Daniels alleging one of the former President Trump lawyers in his hush money case had a conflict of interest. Trying to go back to poke holes into some of the previous declarations made. Let's take a look at some of the commentary we've got here. I put everything on credit cards for insurance and cash back. If you're not getting at least 5% back, you're missing out. Nice, Moon. What are some of your favorite cards? We've got it's all power play. Trump wants to increase police power. Well, remember when we covered Donald Trump's immigration plans yesterday, they're very extensive, and strongly positioned, legally questionable, but strongly positioned opinions and plans for immigration. Probably one of the most thorough plans I've seen from Donald Trump. Quite frankly, if you haven't watched that, I highly recommend you look for it. Just type in "Meet Kevin Trump Immigration." Incredible insights into his immigration plan. Chat's amazing. Thank you so much. Self-employed getting railed. This is true. This is the hardest time to live since 2008. Credit card usage is the highest it's ever been. Yeah, I mean, that's on a nominal basis. Let's look at credit card debt, and let's go to St. Louis Fred. This is the, sort of like a consumer. We could look at some consumer loans data. So this is the St. Louis Fred, which shows you on a nominal basis that you're correct. That credit card usage is at the highest level. We're over $1 trillion. 1024. It's like a kilobyte. Anyway, 1024 billion dollars of debt, so $1.024 trillion of consumer debt. Now, if we look at the delta in this, so the change, sorry, not in billions of dollars. I want to change in percentage from a year ago. This is percent change from a year ago. This shows you the explosion in credit card debt. So during the pandemic, you could see credit card debt actually fell about 13%. This would be during your stimulus era here, paying down credit card debt, getting paid to stay home or otherwise, which is okay. That was part of the pandemic. And then you could see this explosion here in 2022 of credit card debt. But one thing you're going to notice is that rate of, a lot of this, by the way, is lapping the whole, right? So if you average out this and this, you probably have this, which is on average, you have credit card debt increasing since 2016 of around 5 to 7%. If I go back a little further, 5 to 9%, and sort of fluctuates around. You really saw credit card debt explode after 2010. I'm not sure what happened here. But if we go to where we are now, we're at about 10%. So we're definitely at the higher end of what was normal before the pandemic. But I can't say that it's dramatically explosive. It's certainly not like, again, I don't know what happened here during 2010. That'll be worth looking at. But if we go into 2008, let's get into 2008 for a moment here. Let's go to... Here we go. What I really want to see is into 2008, like during the actual recession. There we go. Let's draw this a little narrower. Here we go. So this gives us color into 2008. Here's the 2008 recession. You didn't actually get a spike of credit card debt until October of 2008. It was pretty rapid. Actually, that is pretty rapid. If you had Lehman Brothers in September of 08, October of 08, that's a month later, you're at 16%. 16 to 19% increases in credit card debts during 2008. That's very interesting. Thank you so much, Hector. Really appreciate that. Coming on the news here. Prime Signature Visa. Oh, that's great for Amazon. 5% back. Completely agree with you. Amex Blue Cash Preferred. Doesn't that only give you 5% though on groceries? Because 5% on everything seems a little high. Let me look at that. So if I go to, let's see here. Yeah, okay, 6% on groceries up to 6K, 6% on streaming, 3% on gas, transit, then it's 1% on other. So that's not that great. I actually prefer the Inc. Business Preferred, I think it is. Let me look at that one quickly. Inc. Business Preferred. Is this the one? 3% back on your first 100,000 spent on, again, the categories. Is this not the right one? There is one that gives you 1.5% back on basically everything. It might not be this one then. I'll look. But there's one that gives you 1.5%. There it is. Oh, what's this? Unlimited 2%. Oh, this is the new one, the Premier. Yeah. I have that one. I actually have, let me see. I'm pretty sure I have this one right here. That's my red card, I call it. Signature business. I covered up the front with a sticker. Signature business. Yeah, that's probably it. Okay. So that seems right. $200 annual fee, though. 2.5% cash back on every purchase of $5K or more, but 2% back on all other business purchases. So, you have to offset the fee. 2% cash back for each dollar spent, with the exception of like lottery tickets and stuff like that. Okay, that makes sense. That's fair. So you go, now you have to pay the $200 fee, right? So 195 divided by 2%. You have to spend 10 grand to justify this card. That's a lot. I mean, that makes sense if you have a business. I certainly put more than 10K on it. But yeah, if you don't have a business, that one doesn't make so much sense. But otherwise, I mean, 2.5% on over 5K and 2% on everything. That's a pretty good card. Kind of like the Apple card, like that one too. So, okay. Anyway, I don't know how we went from politics to credit cards, but anyway. So, very fascinating. Let's see what else we could find. Let's jump around a little bit. Let's look at Washington Times for a moment here. Biden the fool, Musk the idiot pawn, and Z's propaganda coup. Look at this. It's nonstop Musk bashing. I didn't even know there was going to be Musk bashing on this, and it's more Musk bashing. Everywhere I look, it's Musk bashing. Oh, I want to see this. California, New York residents moving out as 8.2 million Americans relocate. Roughly 300,000 more Americans moved between states in 22 than 21, most relocating out of California and New York, the Census Bureau estimated. Ooh, that's data that came out yesterday. Two largest outflows were California and New York. It's probably just because it's so expensive. Yeah, look at that. Difference from the national rate. Texas had net out? No way. Yeah, looks like it. Immigration rates. Florida higher, Arizona, Nevada. I wonder how much, if any of that is reversing, though. Here we go. What is this? Notable state-to-state migrations. California to Texas, New York to Florida. That's normal. And then after they live in Florida, the New Yorkers, they end up in North Carolina. And then they're called halfbacks because they're halfway back to New York. California and Arizona. Yeah, it sounds a little bit more like a COVID trend to me. I think some of that is already reversing a little bit, but we'll pay attention to that. Yeah, okay. All right. Interesting. So then we have, let's see what else here. Study links segregated hospital care to poor. Okay. Trump appointee sentenced for J6 crimes. Still going after this. Won't turn on the former president. Federico Klein said that if there was any real victim in the chaos of the Capitol that day, it was Donald Trump, staring down a nearly 6-year prison term. Klein told the Washington Times he regrets being at the Capitol that day, but doesn't regret standing up for the president. Wow. Awaiting notice to report to federal prison as he's locked up at home, basically. Marine Corps veteran, named as special assistant to the State Department of the Office of Brazilian and Southern Cone Affairs. Resigned Jan 19th, 21, the day before the inauguration. Convicted of 12 criminal counts, 6 assault charges for fighting with police outside the Capitol. Well, that just sounds stupid. I mean, like, it's one thing to have been there. It's another thing to fight with the cops. Okay. All right. Crazy. So, see what else we have. Gus topple light pole at Disneyland. Injuring 3. Wow. Must be a slow news day. I mean, it sucks for those 3 people, but anyway. So, Ramaswamy plans to have fun. Oh, I've reached my limit of free articles. Dang it. I actually think I have a login, but anyway. Well, I do want to look at a little bit of Ramaswamy news. So, Ramaswamy, let's see what the latest is with him. The Iowa Republicans. Okay, here we go. Vivek Ramaswamy struggles to gain traction with Iowa Republicans as critics question his path ahead. 10 minutes before Vivek Ramaswamy was to take the stage in a dated casino hotel in western Iowa, no one was in the conference room except for 2 staffers. Oh, no way. Because this guy is like mega popular on X.com. But X.com is not the election. Wow. Okay. Guests started to trickle in at the time the event was scheduled. By the time Ramaswamy began his remarks an hour later, there were 60 people. Okay, so it just started late. While Ramaswamy is packing his schedule with stops across Iowa, including multiple events on Tuesday and Wednesday, he failed to move up in the 2024 primary race and is increasingly at risk of becoming an afterthought. He is polling in the mid to single high digits. I wonder if there's... Let's see here. Let's go to Ramaswamy. See if there's like a schedule of where he's going to be. Events. Oh, yeah. You could go to events. Events.ramaswamy.com. I wonder. Oh, yeah, he's all over Iowa. Pizza place, bar and grill, Your Sweet Pickins. Wow. Senior Center. Mills County Senior Center for a town hall. Bro, this guy's schedule. Holy crap. Look at this. Events.vivek2024.com. And then look at this. Senior Center, Breakfast Town Hall, Delaware County Town Hall. I mean, you know where this guy is all day long. It's almost like he's just walking down the street. Okay, we got an hour here, then we got an hour here, then we got an hour here. They're about 2 hours apart. It's like every 2 hours he's going to be somewhere. Dinner town hall, evening town hall, Clinton County breakfast town hall. Wow. Very interesting. This is today. And then it looks like it's only updated through today, though. They don't really give you much of it. That's interesting. Why would they not give you more of a heads up of like where he's going to be this weekend, for example? Maybe because of Thanksgiving. That might make sense. Maybe he's got to take a little breaky doodla. Got to be late no matter what. Oh, no. Talking about Vivek there. Let's see here. Okay. One sec. 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, good. So Musk reminds me of the astronaut farmer. I can't help but root for the guy. Yeah, I agree too. I can't help but root for Elon Musk. I do think he doesn't help himself as much as he could. But then again, neither do I sometimes. So, yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see if there's anything breaking on the politics front. It does not look like it. Blackstone. Disney Wish confronts a sinking Thanksgiving box office. Less people interested in Disney these days. It's such a bummer for Disney. I know there's the whole woke and anti-Disney thing because of that, but I was a kid who grew up with Disney, so I just, I do hope that Disney comes back to success. And I love Star Wars, even though I haven't watched all of them yet. I'm trying to get through them, a lot of them. Anyway, all right. That does it. What do you suggest for someone researching that knows little or nothing about politics, has never voted, and is aiming to become an educated voter? Well, that's a really great question. I think that one of the best things to do is do whatever you can to read as much as possible about like real current events that are going on. Not so much just opinion pieces, but what are current events? What's going on with foreign policy? What's going on with US China relations? Where would I start? Well, one way to start might be like if you want a good article that is very interesting, and that'll let you go down the rabbit hole. I really think that immigration piece we covered yesterday was fantastic. It was a Times piece, so maybe start with that: sweeping raids, giant camps, and mass deportation, because that'll also, as you read this, you'll read about like Operation Wetback, and then that makes you interested in studying the history of Operation Wetback, right? So, but for every little bit of time you spend over here, make sure, or even on The Economist, which is a great site as well. For example, I might look at, let's see here. Where would I start? The Economist. From a political POV, you could, one interesting one is your job's probably safe from AI. That's interesting. This is fascinating. Inside Hamas's sprawling financial empire. Understanding a little bit about North Korea's spy, but North Korea, they're saber rattlers. This is a good one too. Understanding the history of Japan's 90s economy and basically the stagnation of Japan. Sorry if I didn't say Japan. That would be a fascinating one. But then you want to jump to something maybe a little bit more right-leaning. So you could go to the Wall Street Journal or Barron's, and then we could go to politics on the Wall Street Journal. Problems mount for DeSantis as Haley rises. Would be good to see why is Haley rising. Wall Street eyes Nikki Haley as a Trump spoiler. That's fascinating. I actually kind of want to look at that right now. Yeah, here it is again. Okay, let's take a look at that. Big hitters on Wall Street are lining up to support Nikki Haley. So what do they see in Nikki Haley, right? There's a desperate hunt for anybody but Trump, said one of the roughly 30 senior executives the Wall Street Journal spoke to. Yeah, okay. I mean, I do think people are desiring an alternative. I don't know if it's going to work. But DeSantis' clash with Disney, studying that aggressiveness is actually very interesting about politics, because whether or not you supported DeSantis' attacks against Disney, his attacks were so extreme that people actually got worried that, oh my gosh, what if DeSantis turns on me? Like, if he could do that to Disney, what if he does that to me? So that actually really potentially killed his campaign. The extreme aggressiveness. What is this? 30 guests paid roughly $30,000 a piece to go to a Haley fundraiser at a UBS's banker event. Wow, man. People just throw money to go to these meet and greet events. It's crazy to me. Other Haley events are set for the 3rd and 4th. I wish they would give a little bit of an insight here. Conversation between Haley and Jamie Dimon, Larry Fink. These are some big names, especially Dimon, who leans left. I'd like to see what people are thinking, what they like about her. I'm looking for that. Many are panicking behind closed doors about the incumbent's worsening poll numbers. Well, we're talking about Biden here. I think when we look at Haley, and this is my assumption, I'd like to see some other people's perspective on this. But if I had to guess why people like Nikki Haley, it's that what she says in many regards sounds reasonable. Now, I know a lot of people are like, oh, she's a neocon, she's a warmonger, and then other people are like, yeah, more war. But the defenses or the arguments that she makes when it comes to abortion, defending America, the border crises, she makes very reasonable and logical remarks, and she's capable of retorting against somebody like Vivek. And so if people are trying to get away from Trump, I don't think they see a Vivek who's kind of like a diet Trump as that opportunity. So, and then DeSantis went too extreme. So I think people in the Republican Party are looking for a little bit more neutral Republican, a level-headed maybe. And I think some people are seeing Haley as that. Whereas others say, no, we need the extreme of a Trump to actually get done what needs to be done, right? So, that I find that very interesting. But yeah, looking at various different perspectives, very, very, very useful. Well, something, if you really want to go like down the politics rabbit hole, do this, okay? Pull up these two websites. Okay, hold on. It's foxnews.com. So you go foxnews.com on one side, and then you pull, come on, man. Why can't I get to Fox? Oh, Fox News. There we go. So you pull them up side by side. Oh, my Lord. Come on. There. All right. And see what they're talking about. Border crisis. On one side, Martha Stewart says she never canceled Thanksgiving. Who cares? Negotiator on Hamas. Sam Altman returns. Slow news day. That's what it sounds like to me. Former Trump organization controller breaks down in tears on the witness stands. Okay, now that sounds juicy. I want to see that. Now, at the same time, I'm going to pull up something else. JFK assassination. Biden challengers brutal dig at Kamala Harris. Whoopi Goldberg says, we deserve what we get if Trump wins again. Pretty dramatic. Beheading of ex-partner. Good Lord, some of this stuff. Star gymnast reveals why she no longer attends classes in person. Well, she's pretty, which is clickable, but I don't really care about why she doesn't attend classes in person. These headlines, honestly, a lot of this is just nonsense. Okay, here we go. IRS hits brakes on Biden's tax ruling. So let's compare a little bit what the MSM is talking about. So first, after 4 days of testimony and 2 trips to the witness stand, former Trump organization controller Jeff McConney broke down in tears. Well, first of all, I want to know who this guy is. So everything is just about the recent news. Okay, well, we might have to get a second source here. Donald Trump's former corporate controller says he gave up on his longtime job because he was worn out by the company's legal woes. I mean, I don't think that sounds horribly unreasonable. I just couldn't do it anymore. I wanted to relax and stop being accused of misrepresenting assets for the company that I loved working for. I mean, this is very reasonable. The accusations come with political drama. So I don't think this is like a sign that, he was doing things wrong. But after several years of investigations accusing him of inflating asset valuations, I grew frustrated and just gave up. That does take an emotional toll on people. I don't think that necessarily says anything about Trump. So, when I look at sort of political stuff here, I try to think of myself as like, if I'm in that person's shoes and I'm doing my job every day and I think I'm doing a good job, but then, everything in the media says you're an idiot. Eventually that stuff drags on you. IRS delays tax reporting rule on Venmo and PayPal payments over $600. Wow. On Tuesday announced that it's delaying a controversial tax reporting requirement targeting Americans who made more than $600 in online third-party reporting apps. Really? The tax rule change, approved by Democrats in 2021, would have required payment platforms, including Venmo, PayPal, Etsy, and Airbnb, to send 1099-K forms if their transactions totaled more than $600. Instead, the IRS will treat 2023 as an additional transition year. Really? No 1099-K required then? Oh, that IRS link doesn't work? Yep. Wow. The rule only applies. Okay. In the second straight time, the IRS has delayed the reporting threshold in this phased-in approach. The rule, it probably has to do with the economy too. The rule only applies if payments are received for goods and services transactions, meaning if you used it to send goods and services to a roommate or reimburse a friend or a loved one, those would be excluded. Oh, so that only applies if you hit the goods and services button. Interesting, but that is now being delayed another year. See, I find that fascinating. What I would like to do, what I always like to do is I try to find the primary source. So if I just type in like IRS news, you could go to the IRS newsroom. We should see it. Oh yeah, there it is. There it is. IRS has released this notice. See, I like getting the PDF notices. Transition year. Here's background on what the rule is. And I generally read it all word for word. I throw it in my iPad and I read it. I'm just trying to get to where the date is. American Rescue Plan. I mean, we basically already got the bottom line, but I will read all of this. Transition period enforcement. Here we go. Calendar year 2023 will be regarded as a further transition year. Okay, great. So what does that mean? It means you're not required to report payments in settlement of third-party network transactions with respect to participating payee unless the gross amount exceeds 20,000 or the number of such transactions exceeds 200. See, that's additional info that wasn't actually in the Fox article. 20,000 and 200. Very interesting. All right. So that's I'm surprised I haven't seen more on that. I find that very reportable. Let's do another one. Let's think of let's see here. What about trying to think of another NPR, they're deemed to lean left, but I actually think NPR's coverage is generally very good. So let's see what they're talking about. JFK, Hamas deal, OpenAI. So those are the top stories. We already know about that. It's tough to get past the top stories. Strained U.S. aviation system. Look at that. Braces for record-setting week of holiday travel. Wow. CZ. That's interesting. 7 million student loan borrowers. I'll take a peek at that. But yeah, interesting. Not a lot of actually really functional stories here. Black Friday deals, books we love, free phone calls from jail. Okay. All right. Wow, that's not a lot of news. How about LA Times? Here's another kind of obviously left-leaning one. Boy, they hated me. I had an interview with the LA Times editorial board. They did not like me at all. I wonder if LA Times editorial board. I wonder if I could still find it if they got rid of it. Oh, wow. Yeah, you can. That's cool. They have the whole video. Oh, that's scary. I don't want to watch it. Meeting the recall candidates, Kevin Paffrath. And they have the whole video here. They also did. I know they did a piece too. Yeah, look at that. Hey, look, there I am. Got my Thor's hammer. New York Times editorial board. Oh boy, they were fun. They were fun. Say no to Newsom recall. The editorial board tells why. Don't elect Kevin. He's a YouTuber. Oh. Anyway. Yeah. Let's see what we got over here. Sometimes the opinion pieces are good, but in order to get a good opinion piece, you usually have to go to the big publications. Like Foreign Affairs is a good one. Foreign Affairs is brilliant. But you go to the New York Times. Let's get the opinion pieces over here. Bernie Sanders did a piece. Hamas must go. Gaza must have peace. Here's what we must do. The roots of Trump's rage. See, these are so interesting. Like the Times pieces, they're great for getting a different perspective. Like, let's give this one a quick glance. So this person says, what's the root basically of Trump's whatever? This person, okay, here we go. Let's see. These are a bunch of quotes. Okay. The media has adopted a policy in covering Donald Trump of don't amplify him, you're just spreading his message. However, in Class's view, newspapers and televisions have succumbed to what they call the banality of crazy, ignoring the most dangerous policy proposals by an authoritarian who is on the cusp of once again becoming the most powerful man in the world, precisely because it happens like clockwork every day. In other words, the don't amplify him actually turns. They're making this counter argument here that like originally Democrats are like, don't put Trump in the news because you're giving him platform. Now they're like, no, put him in the news more because then people maybe will learn more about how he's crazy or whatever. I was reading a little bit of this earlier in print. That's why I recognized it. But anyway, what I don't recognize this. Bernie Sanders, there have been 5 wars in the last 15 years between Israel and Hamas. How do we end the current one and prevent a 6th? Okay, well, let's see. For those who not only want to end the war, but bring an end to future ones, we must be clear-eyed about the facts. Hamas, a terrorist organization, released a barbaric attack. And then they compare it on a scale to 9/11. I generally don't like scaling up, but I understand what they're doing. They're taking percentages. Israel, in response under the leadership of its right-wing prime minister, who's also partnered with 2 right-wing cabinets, further right-wing cabinets, or I should say parties. But anyway, has unleashed what amounts to a total war against the Palestinian people. In Gaza, over 1.6 million people were forced out of their homes. Supplies are cut. Okay, we know this. This is a humanitarian crisis. So what's his plan? First, Hamas made it clear that the goal is perpetual warfare. Second, Israel has done nothing in recent years to give up hope for a peaceful settlement. Needless to say, I don't have all the answers, but for those of us who believe in peace and justice, it is imperative that we do our best to provide the Israelis and Palestinians with a thoughtful response. Okay, what is your solution? To start, we must demand an immediate end to Israel's indiscriminate bombing. Okay, so first of all, I actually agree with Bernie here. You should never have indiscriminate bombing. Now, Israel might say, it ain't indiscriminate. Okay, which is causing an enormous number of civilian casualties. Yeah, that's terrible. Israel is at war with Hamas, not the Palestinian people. Right, and then you have the meat shield argument. It's terrible. Okay, there must also be extended humanitarian efforts. Completely agree. Okay, next. If long-suffering Palestinians are ever going to go back to having a chance at self-determination, there must no longer be an Israeli reoccupation and blockade of Gaza. In other words, stay out of their land, so to speak, right? And this is also happening in not just Gaza, but in the West Bank. Interesting. Okay, call for sort of a balance in the settlement and the expansion of Israeli territory. To achieve the political transformation Gaza needs, new Palestinian leadership will be required. Correct, but you're going to have a power vacuum and power struggles. It's really difficult to prop up a government. We tried that in Afghanistan. We've tried that in Iraq. It always fails. The people have to have their own government. They can't be assigned a government. Finally, the Palestinians, if they are to have any hope, there must be a commitment for broad peace talks, for a 2-state solution. Right. You can't have Palestinians demanding, from the river to the seas, evaporate Israel, and you can't have Israelis trying to evaporate Palestine. Neither that works. So, so far, this is pretty dang generic, I have to say. It's like, let's have peace, let's give humanitarian aid, stop indiscriminately bombing, and let's have a 2-state solution. But quite frankly, sometimes the simplest solution is the most obvious. I don't actually think that's a horrible piece by Bernie here. Foreign affairs is great too. What does it mean to defeat a terrorist group? I love foreign affairs, but the pieces are so long. I just don't have the time to go through this whole thing right now. Their pieces are always so long. Let's cheat, okay? We're gonna cheat. I'm sorry. I try not to do this because they're not good, but we're cheating. Oh, it won't do it. Why? Oh, because it hears terrorist. You loser. Ugh. Fine. I'll try to skim. So Hamas wants to wipe Israel from the face of the earth. Israel met Hamas's violence with violence. Is not remotely surprising. Okay, great. Yet Israel's military advantages are growing slimmer. How interesting. Yesterday in the Meet Kevin podcast, I talked about how I'm questioning some of the tactics of Israel. And I'm like, Israel should not be having people walk up to Israeli tanks and planting bombs on them. That, like, odd. But anyway. Okay, so for Israel, perhaps the most galling outcome of this asymmetry is that armed forces may have played squarely into Hamas's hands by striking Gaza with tremendous force. Hamas was founded with the goal of eradicating Israel, but the group is not capable of doing that. So it wields terrorism to gain attention. The bloodshed on the 7th was intended to provoke a military response. Yeah, well, they got that. But now it gains the support of the Houthis and Hezbollah. Hamas uses their deaths. They consider themselves martyrs, part of the cause. States no longer have a monopoly on the resources needed to project power or promote narratives. Okay. So the AK was a technology. Okay, now we're going into some history over here. So what's their point? A revolution in information technology has benefited terrorists, allowing them to magnify the impact of their violence. Well, that's true. You just go on Telegram, social media. So what's their point? Tunnel vision. Tunnels provide Hamas with another asymmetric advantage. 2021, the group claimed to have built over 300 miles of tunnels. Smuggle goods, hide soldiers, hide weapons. Fine. Well-armed armies can use robotic tools. Fine. So technology helps. I understand that. But what's the point of this? Put simply, Israel took the bait by responding to Hamas's attack with violent repression, a popular but rarely successful method of counterterrorism that works best when members of the terrorist group can be distinguished and separated from a civilian population, an impossible task in Gaza. According to Hamas, Israel killed over 11,000 people in the territory within a handful of weeks after the October 7th attack. With every civilian death, Israel invites global backlash that makes it harder to defeat Hamas and protect Israelis. Wow. That is probably the most eloquently put line I've seen in foreign affairs. And they do some good pieces. But that is a very, 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 very good argument here. I love foreign affairs, but their font is painful to read. Oh, you could solve that. And I want to amplify the point of this message here because this is a very good one. But let me do something. Okay, so let me see if I can make it work. So I went to Safari. So you go to Safari and then get rid of all the spam. Go here and click this button, the reader view. Look at that. Turns it into a beautiful iPhone style font. So we'll read it here. There it is. Look how much nicer that is. Isn't that nice? One click of a button using Safari. Put simply, Israel took the bait. Yeah, well, they're not wrong. Israel got baited into this. And all of those men, women, and children who have lost family members will now forever not forgive Israel. They will hate Israel forever and ever and ever. And it'll lead to the creation of more terrorists. So, very powerful line right here. I really like this. Israel can make some gains against Hamas with better surveillance. Yeah, no kidding. Like the fact that, they totally failed on the border. Shocking. More important, Israel needs to counter Hamas's political mobilization to recruit allies. Well, it's tough when you keep killing children. Israel must not drive the Palestinian Authority towards supporting Hamas. That's also true. There has to be hope that their government can come back. Yeah, war sucks. Agree with you, JC. Oh, I feel so bad for people losing family and loved ones or dying. Yeah. So, all right. Well, there we have it. Thank you so much for being here, folks. Appreciate y'all. Hope you enjoyed this Meet Kevin Politics.